The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays or Sundays, SOR Media, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of SOR Media is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced? Then come own the night with us.
Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all
Station atop the mountains of British Columbia, live from SOR headquarters. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and on Spaced Out Radio on iTunes. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio.
Brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized.
It's Thursday, September 20th. Friday, September 21st, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. And this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you have a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, broadcasting to you live from the Great White North on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We are 150,000 strong nightly on the SOR radio network and Deep Talk Radio, and we say hello to each and every one of you. And if you want to take the time to listen to our archives, we got them free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, shop at our store, read up on the encounter online, and so much more. Don't forget, you can go to questers.ca, click on the fall conference, and get your tickets right now for the first annual Caribou Paracon, presented by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. It is next week, September 28th through 30th. You gotta be here. It's going to be a great time. I want to see you all here. Tonight's show is brought to you by the YouTube channel Ensuho. Sebastian Martin brings high-quality messages to the masses, so go to spacedoutradio.com. Click on the Ensuho banner and subscribe to the channel today. Tonight, since it's the third Thursday of every month, we bring in our resident alternative news expert, Jamie Sexton, for his segment we call around these parts the Rebel Planet. A journalist, musician, director, Jamie has seen stories unfold outside of what you see in the mainstream media, so we get to look at some stories for you to chew on that you might not see the hidden perspective. The Texas-born Jamie takes a look at a few stories tonight that have caught his attention. Elon Musk getting high on Joe Rogan's podcast and then talking about aliens. The MGM wanting to only settle with victims of the Vegas massacre if they show up to collect. What really went on at the Sunspot Observatory in New Mexico? And for all you concert and party goers out there, how about Ticketmaster cutting a side deal with scalpers? That's where we're going to start. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, Everett Themer will be back with our latest edition of The Encounter from the SOR Newsroom. But first, Mr. Jamie Sexton joins us, my friend, all the way from Texas. How's the Lone Star State tonight?
Great, brother. Good to be with you.
Very good to be with you, my friend. Very good to be with you. What's new in your world? I hear you've been building a brand new, could we call it Art Deco home for your little Capuchin monkey Spike?
Yeah, state-of-the-art monkey cage.
Oh, you got to fill us in. You got to fill us in. Spike is going to have a nicer home than most of us live in.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been working hard on that. He's sitting there patiently waiting till it's done and, supervising the whole thing. So his current cage is right next to what I'm working on there, and every day he kind of gives me the thumbs up. Yeah, let's do that. Let's move that over there. So
very nice. Jamie, before we get started too deep into it tonight, I want to reintroduce you because our audience is always changing. We always have new listeners coming on in to, check things out. Let's learn a little bit about you. How did you get involved with alternative news?
Well, I think my curiosity for it began many years ago through a friend of mine who we worked together at the time at a company, and we would take our lunch breaks together. This was years and years ago. I think I might have been 19 or 20 years old, but he started wanting to share information with me about the world and how this institution worked or how this government thing worked. And, basically I would have at that time labeled him a nutty conspiracy theorist and dismissed him, and did for the most part. But eventually he pointed some things out to me that I found really interesting, and I got curious about and researched them. And, at that time, this was like, the internet wasn't even around. So when you research things, you had to really dig in deep and be diligent about it. You had to go to the library and look up microfiche and all sorts of different things and old newspaper clippings. And it was, but I found out that the information that he was regurgitating to me was actually accurate, and there was something to it. And it just piqued my curiosity to look at the world a little differently than I had before, just kind of look behind the scenes. In other words, don't just take for granted what politicians tell you, and don't just take for granted what the news tells you. Because a lot of times those sort of agencies and institutions will have ulterior motives and different agendas than just telling you the truth. And when you start examining things through a different lens, you find out that the world is a lot more complicated and a little bit different than what you might imagine it to be. It works differently, and I think up front on mainstream news and what politicians tell us and the way we believe that our systems work, et cetera, et cetera. I think a lot of it is actually a bit of a puppet show. So, and I think that's unfortunate, and I think knowledge is power. So for me, it became important to not only look for information that I felt was a little closer to the truth than what you're being told, but also to share that. And so as time went on, people always told me that, you should probably do a news site or a blog or something. And so I started writing about things and sharing information. And And so one thing led to another, and eventually Rebel Planet News came to be. So that's it in a nutshell, basically.
Well, I appreciate you filling us on in, and we're going to start it off with a topic tonight that's a little close to your heart, because you have, for the majority of your life, been involved in both the movie and music industries. And here we are with an incredible announcement that Ticketmaster, where we all go to get our tickets for concerts and shows like Cirque du Soleil and other types of Broadway-type hits, you always go to the Ticketmaster. They're really a monopoly in all of this. Well, we found out today that Ticketmaster has been paying and working with a bunch of scalping companies and getting a cut of the profits there. So they are actually double-dipping on the sales that they have for tickets. So, I mean, they charge outlandish fees for everybody out there. I mean, it used to be like $2-3 on a ticket. So if your ticket was $25 for a concert ticket, all of a sudden it jumps up to like $28 or $28.50 because Ticketmaster put their surcharge on there, and now you're looking at like $20-30 per ticket. It's getting ridiculous. And now we find out that they have been also working with professional scalper companies, making sure the scalpers got all the good tickets that everybody wanted. In the meantime, they were getting a cut of that profit as well. Jamie, you have a plethora of friends in the music industry. Have you talked to any of them about Ticketmaster before and since this article came out?
No, I don't believe I've actually had any conversations with anyone per se related to this particular article, but it is a conversation I've had before with many people. I remember the same thing you do. When Ticketmaster first came along, you'd see those little surcharges on there, and like you say, they grew and grew. And then I also remember being out in front of concerts or sporting events or anything, and seeing the scalpers out front. And there were a few times when I wasn't able to get a ticket before the show, and I thought, I'll just go get one from one of those scalpers. So a few times in my life, I've actually done that. And actually bought a ticket from scalpers. And when I did that, I was surprised that when I bought the ticket from a scalper, this is just looks like an average guy standing out in the cold and in front of a huge arena for a concert, outside in his jacket, waving tickets around. You think, well, I might pay a little extra for this, and I'm probably going to end up in the nosebleed section. When it turned out, no, I did pay a little extra, but actually the tickets were actually pretty good tickets. I was surprised. I was like, well, how does this happen? This guy had 40 tickets in his hand. And I realized, oh, okay, so that's how scalping works. These guys go and they buy better seats. Well, as time went on, I noticed that there were actually resale venues. There were alternative ticket agencies that were apparently, I guess they had a business license to buy tickets from Ticketmasters and resell them. But I was always really curious about that because it says right on any Ticketmaster's ticket, if you look at it, it says this item is not for resale. So by their own policy, I mean, I guess they can break their own policy, but technically, but I always wondered about that. I'm like, well, how am I buying a Ticketmaster ticket from another agency who has a business license to sell tickets, and I can go and get some really good seats? In fact, some of these agencies specialize in buying the premium seats or premium, sections. They'll buy them a section at a time. They'll go in and buy, $50,000, $100,000 worth of tickets to something like it's a major show, and just take all the good seats and then up the price and resell them. So there's legal. I guess there's legal scalping. I would call that legal scalping, and by my definition. And then I guess there's the guys that just walk up and to the ticket booth and buy. They stand in line all night and buy a handful of tickets and resell them out in front of the venue. I don't know. In my opinion, I don't like any of it, because if the performers or the people that are getting paid for the event, whether it be an artist or a promoter or whoever it's supposed to be, that's supposed to be earning the money off of ticket sales, if they're not factored in to those extra profits, that's not good. And then, of course, I never, from a fan perspective or a patron, I never felt it was fair on that end of the equation either, because I thought, if I work all week, month to save for, and I'm patiently waiting for this big event to come up, and I go to my ticket box and I say, what sections do you have available? I know tickets went on sale today. And they're like, well, everything's pretty much gone except for, and they point to some section where you really don't want to be. And you're like, well, you've only been selling tickets since noon. Where did all these tickets go? They go fast. And you're like, what? And it turns out it's because, they're doing these mass sell-offs to these other individuals and other agencies. And I just don't think that's right. I've been to a few events where over time they would say you're only allowed to buy as many as 5 tickets or 10 tickets or, something like that. I think those kind of policies are fair and good. But I don't support the whole reselling of tickets, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. That's just my personal take on it.
You know what? It also, and I'm going to read a quote here from this story that came out of, this story is actually out of Toronto with a combination of the CBC and the Toronto Star. But I want to get to Darren's comment here. I mean, he makes a comment that he went to buy a ticket for a concert and it was sold out in 3 minutes. And, I've always wondered, especially in Canada where the population is so much less than in the United States, I've always wondered how come a concert is sold out in like 5 minutes or 7 minutes and you can't get a ticket. Right. Whether it's a sporting event, a wrestling event, a concert, Cirque du Soleil, or whatever it could be. I always wondered how that happened. And frankly, now we know.
Yeah. The thing is, too, I really don't think this is any new practice whatsoever. Now, the fact that it's come to light that Ticketmaster may be actually profiting from these resales, the upped price from these resellers or these scalpers, that may be a relatively newly reported idea, but it never. It's not really a surprise to me. I remember a few of the scalpers that I've seen out in front of venues before telling me in their own words that they actually worked for Ticketmaster. And I have no way to know if they were telling me the truth. But now that this story's come out, I wouldn't doubt it at all. To me, it seems to me that it's just sort of, even if it were just a matter of, I guess, practice by insiders, by a few people that worked at Ticketmasters or at a particular, I don't know, ticket agency or something within the company, just so they can skim off the top kind of thing. Wherever there's clams, there's scams, you know what I mean? Wherever there's money to be made, somebody's going to be trying to skim and scam somewhere. So it's really not a big surprise to me. I never thought that they clamped down on this reselling of tickets as like they should. I've never been a fan of the practice at all.
Well, here's a quote from one of the company's employees who said that we have spent millions of dollars on this tool. The last thing we'd want to do is get brokers caught up to where they can't sell inventory with us. We're not trying to build a better mousetrap. I mean, it's a monopoly. And the people who are getting screwed are, number one, the fans, but number two, whether it's a sports team or whether it's a music band. I could see lawsuits over this, big time lawsuits.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. As a matter of fact, I'm really surprised that artists haven't collectively gone after these scalpers and taken action on this before, because they could be losing tens of thousands of dollars a night, if not more, per performance, per event on these kinds of things. Sometimes way more than that, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, depends on how it all breaks down. But, some of these larger, take a concert like Rolling Stones or Elton John or Guns N' Roses or, one of these big rock bands that bring in thousands and thousands of people. If this is going on and these tickets are being scalped and rebrokered at a much higher premium than what they're originally priced at, who's getting that profit? Is it all the scalper? Is it all the reseller? Or is Ticketmaster getting a portion of that? I doubt very seriously that the artist is seeing any of those additional profits whatsoever. Yeah, I've heard it individually. Yeah, I've heard of individuals, even in smaller venues. Yeah, I believe you too actually did something on that as well, and I've seen even smaller acts, if we're talking about musicians, at smaller venues deal with this. Mediocre, medium-sized bands that play, 500,000 seater venues. They have a problem with scalpers sometimes doing that. And when they have a little bit of time and luxury and it's more of an intimate setting for them, they can, they can investigate it a little. And I've seen promoters and club owners and all kinds of behind the scenes arguments go on, I've seen even tour managers get involved and, so it's not like it's a new thing. If there's more light being shed on it as a result of this article, I think that's great. I think we should be talking about it. I just don't think it's fair. I just don't think it's fair that the customer has to pay more. And I don't think it's fair, obviously, that if they are charging more for tickets, that the artist isn't seeing any of it.
Well, the artist is the product, and that leads to Craig's question here. He goes, why would an artist care? They are performing to take your money, and it's an irrational argument to say that the artist is losing money.
It may not be a matter of them losing money per se, but it's a matter of contractual agreement. If an artist says, well, I'm going to negotiate my performance for this price, and the promoter says, well, okay, this is all we can charge. This is all our market will demand. So this is our price. This is what we can host your show for, or promote your show for. This is the cap. And then they turn around and skim 20% over the top of that with resales. Then that is an unfair deal to the artist. So it's there's a lot. Not only that, but if you make it so that some people can't attend because you're jacking up the prices, and that's another factor involved. If you start charging, $400 or $500 for a ticket to an event, you're sort of setting a precedent. And in a way, you're actually driving the prices of tickets up across the board. And, you're going to price some of your audience out of that, and a lot of times it's your more diehard audience. When you talk about bands and other events like, truck events and car events and wrestling events and all kinds of things, the majority of people that attend those across, the Western Hemisphere, blue collar workers by and large. These people work hard and they save their money and they go to these events. So if you're sort of greasing them out of the equation, or they can't afford it because ticket prices are being jacked up by scalpers, and then the subsequent effect of all of that, you're also losing a bit of your market. And those are the kind of people that are going to show up and buy products. You know what I mean? So an artist may say, well, let's only charge X amount of dollars for the admission fee, because, when these people come in, they're going to want to buy a hat, they're going to want to buy a T-shirt, and, we don't need to stick it to them all at the door. They have the option to buy products and stuff. But, if the market is affected unduly by scalpers and resellers, then it does throw off the entire equation of how things are divvied up. And so it does have a lot of effect that people probably don't see up front.
Do you see bands starting to come together? And I'm going to say the bigger bands, because one of the bands that has been very political is somebody like Metallica. All right, Pearl Jam. GNR just came off almost $1 billion tour over the last 2 years. Do you see them looking at it and saying, how much did Ticketmaster, through their deal with scalpers, actually make off of us, and why are they taking our money? If I was an artist, I would be livid right now. Absolutely livid. And would be talking to my team of lawyers.
Well, like I say, this notion isn't brand new. And artists are handled by people who, are constantly negotiating and overseeing their affairs and their production, et cetera, et cetera. So none of this is a new concept to them. So I'm surprised that this attention hasn't been brought to this, in a big way before. I think, though, that what you may be seeing is that a lot of times, if we're talking about music, for example, people aren't getting rich in music anymore very often off of their record sales, because of the way that, digital music has affected record sales. Artists are beginning more and more and more to rely on their live shows for income and the selling of merchandise at those shows. So they're going to start looking at, they're going to really start to look at every penny and how it's being spent and how it's being earned, and so that may be why there's attention shed on this, is because people are starting to take a closer look at it, but out of necessity. In other words, they need to.
Well, you think on a tour like Guns N' Roses just did, and if you're just tuning on in wondering why we are talking about music right now, is because with Jamie we talk a lot about alternative news here on the Rebel Planet. One of the stories that we're talking about is something that is close to his heart in his music industry, which Jamie has been a part of for the better part of 20 years. And Ticketmaster being accused of working with scalpers to rip off not only the public, but artists as well. So that's why we're talking about this topic right now, because I know a lot of you people tune in to say, well, this doesn't sound very paranormal, Dave. This doesn't sound very ufological. Where's the Zen and Chi in Ticketmaster? But this is important, because this is why we have one night a month dedicated to alternative news. So that's why we got Jamie in here talking about this, because, well, all of his friends are rock stars, so why wouldn't we talk about it? But I could see, Jamie, some major bands, whether it's Guns N' Roses, like I said, who just came off almost $1 billion tour, saying, where's my money? Because from what I've read about Axl Rose, and you know him, you know, as much as a good guy as he is, he's a shrewd businessman and doesn't like to lose money anywhere.
Right. Yeah, nobody does. I don't think, you know, if you, like I said, these things are all big business, and there's a lot of overseers. There's a lot of attorneys involved, and, you know, tour managers and booking agencies and promoters and all sorts of management, and, you know, a lot of layers of control, a lot of hands in the stew. So, you know, there's a lot of accounting that's done to keep track of what happens to things. But nobody's naive as well. I mean, like I said, this whole scalping and reselling of tickets is something that's been around for decades. And like I said, I've never been a fan of it. I don't know who would be, to be perfectly honest with you. I think the only people that are a fan of it are anybody that's making the extra dollars off of that. And some of these, you know, rich cats that can afford to pay, you know, crazy amounts of money for tickets that nobody else can afford, you know. And you know, you see that. I've heard I've heard of tickets for certain events going for as high as anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000, you know, just depending on what sort of event it is. You know, maybe a sporting event, maybe a rock show or a pop show, or who knows, you know. That kind of stuff, in my opinion, is really ludicrous. I've never been a fan of that type of marginal marketing for those types of events, you know, especially rock and roll. Because for me, in the world of rock and roll, that's not really what rock and roll is supposed to be about, in my opinion. You know, in my opinion, rock and roll is about, you know, pure democracy and you know, every kid deserves his chance to be in the front row if he can get there. I mean, I remember when I was young, we would go to Kiss concerts, and there would be, you know, 2 days before tickets went on sale, people were camped outside in line at wherever these tickets were being sold in tents and sleeping bags and everything else, waiting for their chance to be first in line or 400th in line, whatever their best spot was, you know. And to me, that's rock and roll. You know, you really, you want to see the show so bad that you'll do that, you know. But, you know, apparently along the way, somebody saw the profit in that and said, you know what, screw that. We'll just buy the best, you know, 2,000 seats in the house and jack the price up 200%. I just really don't think that's cool.
I remember back, and I think it was 1991, when AC/DC's The Razor's Edge tour came out, and tickets went on sale, and we were like sixth from the ticket booth. Because remember, you had to line up in the shopping mall? Tickets up here always went on sale at 10 a.m., and you'd get to the shopping mall at like 7:30 to get in line, and you'd have to get a wristband and all this kind of stuff. And we got sixth. We got the sixth one, or we were the sixth person in line when they announced that it was sold out. All right, the first show was sold out, but all of a sudden, as people started to leave in front of us, they announced a second show. And we were like, whoa, this is awesome. We ended up getting like sixth row on the floor. It was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal for that second show. But I mean, that was the thrill, is doing almost like that little bit of a lottery where you'd have to get up early to go camp out, like you said, or get to the mall, waiting for the doors to open. And, you know, you drive by the mall the night before and say, okay, the Ticketmaster's here. We got to get to this door. We got to be right at front of this door at about 7 a.m. to make sure that when they unlock it, and then you'd find your fastest buddy, your fastest runner, to run as fast as he could to that booth, man. And you'd see people sprinting all over the place. It was phenomenal. And unfortunately, due to the internet, kids today, they won't get that experience. But that was fun.
Oh, no, they'll just log on and hit, you know, enter the parent's credit card and just hit buy, you know. Oh, yeah. I'll take two. and they never leave the house, right back to their video game. They don't remember the sacrifice, man.
No, because there was always that one dude in line for tickets, and that one lady in line for tickets who was all dolled up, with her giant satellite bangs and her high heels and leather skirt, all ready for the ticket sales. And then the dude would be walking in with the big chains and the red bandana tight around his head, and the jean jacket vest because the arms have been ripped off, and there's all like Megadeth and Metallica, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest patches all over the place. And of course they'd have to have an Aussie on there somewhere, right? It was, I miss seeing that guy, man. I miss seeing that guy and that lady.
Yeah, to be a fan of anything, man, back, when this kind of stuff first was going on with major arena shows and stuff, it was an experience all in itself. You would talk about shows for the longest time, and all this anticipation, and it was an event just to get ready for the show. And I don't know. Now, to me, it's just like anything else, man. It's like, over commercialized, over corporatized. Everything's it's a big machine now. So,
what was your first concert? Do you remember? I mean,
first concert. I honestly can't remember if I saw another concert before Kiss. I think Kiss might have been my first concert, to be honest with you. It might have been AC/DC, but I can't remember which one of those came first.
Nice.
But I knew, once you go to a big rock show, it's all over with. You're like, well, life has changed at that point.
My first concert was in March of 1989.
And
it was Skid Row on their Youth Gone Wild tour, opening up for Aerosmith, who had just released the album before Living on the Edge. I forget the album, but it was Skid Row opening up for Aerosmith. That was my first concert. I was 17 years old. My second concert, because I was a giant Skid Row fan back then, along with GNR, my second concert was Pantera opening up for Skid Row. And that's where I got the Dimebag Darrell guitar pick, which will eventually, that was 1992, and that one will come your way.
Nice. I still have a whistle for you as well.
Absolutely. But one of your friends, I think, has the best line ever. DJ Ashba, I saw him on an interview one day, and they're sitting there with 6 a.m. They go to James Michael, what was your first concert? And he says his. Nikki Sixx says his, and here sheepishly DJ Ashba says, my first concert was Motley Crue. And here Nikki Sixx looks at him and is just killing himself laughing because there's like a 10, 12-year age difference between the two. But nonetheless, I think that was one of my favorite interviews that I've ever seen about that.
That's great.
You imagine that? All right, we're going to move on from music here, my
DJ
friend.
was always...
Go ahead.
All right.
No, go ahead. Tell us
the
the
DJ
DJ
I was just
story.
say DJ was always a fan. He's even when he was in Guns N' Roses, he told me one day, he said, man, he goes, I never saw this gig in Guns N' Roses as my gig. He said, the way I've always viewed this job as, and this is when he was still in the band. I don't know, we were riding around in a U-Haul one day doing something, and he said, I think we were working on his garage or something. He had just bought a Lamborghini, so we were trying to modify his garage so it would fit in there. So we were riding around in a truck, and he goes, yeah, man, he goes, I never saw this gig with Guns N' Roses as my gig. He goes, I'm just a fan like everybody else. The way I see it, I'm just filling in until Slash gets back. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, he's a damn good guitarist, man. Damn good guitarist. That's for sure.
Awesome guitarist, man.
And he got a lot of nice Les Pauls out of it too.
Yeah.
I will say that. I will say that. But hey, I digress. I'm a Ron Bumblefoot THAL guy. You know that. I'm on Team Bumblefoot.
Oh, yeah.
I'm on Team Bumblefoot for that one.
Yeah.
Hey,
Bumblefoot rocks.
Let's move on here. Let's move on here to another topic that we wanted to get into with you here on Spaced Out Radio tonight. And I want to get into your former home in Las Vegas, where the MGM Grand has come out, and we were all over this because you had friends who were at that concert massacre that happened on October 1st last year, where over 50 people died, over 500 people injured. Just one of the most sickening days in American history, in recent history, that is. And, you know, I mean, there's no reason that you should go to a concert and come home in a body bag. That's just not what it's all about. But nonetheless, you looked very seriously into this story, and we talked quite a bit about it. Now we're getting to the point where people are wanting to talk settlement with MGM and that company. And we talked about this a couple of months ago, where MGM had basically looked at filing a lawsuit against those who were involved and was countersuing. But now it looks like they want to go the settlement route. But in a kind of ironic state that Everett Thiemer brought up on this show a couple of weeks ago, MGM now wants to say, yeah, we'll settle with you. We'll give you the money, not a problem. But if you don't come to us to get it, we're out. We're not paying you. Does that sound fair?
To be perfectly honest with you, all of the details of what MGM is actually trying to do with all of this are really sketchy, and I think they're in trouble. I think this event really, they weren't prepared for this. Nobody was, but I mean, I think that they very early on, whoever's making the decisions from a legal perspective for them, to me, it seems like they took the wrong approach and the wrong attitude from the get-go. and as far as I know, they have not really dropped that whole idea of suing the victims. In fact, I know they've already gone through with several of the suits. They've already started those proceedings. So, and I think my feeling on this is that this whole thing of trying to get people to come forward is just so they can identify people and start slapping them with that lawsuit. They even offered the victims $500. Okay. They said, we will pay $500 to whatever charity you want. If you come forward and let us sue you. I mean, that's how ridiculous it's been. So, you know, I don't know what their angle here is. It's incredibly bizarre. I know that you know, one of the owners reported that they've already lost, I think it was $1.8 billion as a negative result of the shooting. You know, which is unfortunate from a business standpoint, and you know, looking at it just from that angle, I can sympathize with that, but regardless of whether or not they're actually liable and getting in and parsing all that out, and you know, that's not for me to decide. Without getting into all of that, I just think that their overall attitude over this event and how unsympathetic they seem to be towards the victims, and apparently more worried about their bottom line and not being sued and protecting their interest and this, that, and the other thing. I think all of that it wasn't a good look for them. And I don't know where they're trying to go with all of this, but it just seems like every move and every angle that they try to make on this situation makes them look worse, to be honest with you.
I mean, they have some pretty high-priced lawyers. We're talking multi-million-dollar lawyers here on their team. When you get to that type of corporate affair, you need to have the best of the best, especially when you're dealing in the casino market the way they are. And I can understand, okay, not that I find it acceptable, but I can totally understand, Jamie, about why MGM Grand would want to, you know, try and protect their assets. But whoever drew up this battle plan had to realize at some point the public was going to say, this whole idea of suing each and every victim for going to a concert on MGM grounds and getting shot up from a guy inside the Mandalay Bay, that's ridiculous. Like, of course people are not staying there. Of course people are going to have adverse reaction. That's the beauty of democracy, when you can say or dictate with your money where you want to spend it. And if you don't feel that, you know, that people are being upfront, you're going to just say, to hell with it, I'll go someplace else. And MGM, who owns, I believe, 7 casinos on the Las Vegas Strip alone? You know, that's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money to be, you know, because people are scared. How did those guns get in? We still don't know how he got those guns in. Yes, they've released video of Stephen Paddock, you know, hauling him up, but nobody questioned anything. So now people are scared for their safety. They're scared for, you know, the fact that if something happens, is this big casino going to come after me? Because my piddly little lawyer that makes $300 an hour sure as hell can't compete with somebody who's making $5,000 an hour.
Right.
You know, I mean, this is where it gets ugly. It's the small people versus the corporation when it comes to this.
Yeah, you know, like I say, you know, the event itself was so unfortunate and so unique in the sense of how many people it affected. It was a big event, you know, and you know, you could guess from the very next day, any rational person could guess, well, I don't know really what happened there yet. You know, the news is still coming in, but you know, this happened on MGM property, and there's going to be some liability. Well, their strategy right from the beginning seemed to be, well, we're going to do whatever we can to not only lessen our liability, which is generally what most businesses do, is they try to minimize their liability, which is actually fair because, you know, when you think about it, you think about things that happen in public places that a lot of times are really largely out of people's control, right? Yeah, there's only so much you can do. And a lot of these ambulance chaser type attorneys will try to sue a company for everything they're worth, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's an old story. So the whole business of suing a business and then other people taking advantage of that, and lawyers to courts, you know, it's become a bit of a game in a way, you know, a legal game. And over the years, you know, corporations and attorneys have developed ways to protect their clients, and then attorneys for victims have developed ways to strengthen their cases, and the whole thing sort of kind of, you know, escalated into this big, powerful sort of way of doing business in these things. So having said all that, you know, when something like this happens, obviously their lawyers are going to go to work trying to minimize their liability, which is fair enough. If people trying to lay more responsibility on a property than is due, okay, but they went beyond that and used a very untested strategy of trying to get a federal judge to declare that they had no liability whatsoever. And I think that was such an insensitive approach that they turned off the public. They insulted the victims. They added insult to injury, and they turned off the public. And at the end of the day, I think what they're not really stopping to calculate in all of this is that when a business like MGM, they're in the business of selling vacation time. Come to Vegas, stay on our property, have a good time here. Stay in our rooms. This is a vacation spot. We're going to draw you in. To sell someone on that takes an incredible amount of marketing. It's a marketing. Mailers go out, emailers go out, billboards, big $1 million flashy signs when you drive into Vegas. There's a lot of PR in that. And so PR really is the name of the game in their business. And by handling the aftermath of this shooting and the legal strategy that they chose to take, really, in my opinion, was probably the worst PR move they could have ever made. They're not. I don't know who's in charge of their legal strategy, but it just seems to me to be completely wrong. And I think if I had to really break it down and say, well, why are they doing that? I think it's because just these properties are not making the kind of money they used to make. I know that to be true anyway, because I lived there for 13 years. So, and like you say, I know just about every entertainer in town, and I even know some casino owners and club owners. And so, we talk and conversations go around, and Vegas is and always has been a major tourist attraction and will remain that way. But it goes through its periods of up and down, when sometimes these properties are not doing all that well. And I think if they're taking on the strategy of trying to actually sue the victims, I think if that's actually a strategy that they chose to take, they must not be doing all that well, to be honest with you, to take that PR risk on top of everything else. It just doesn't seem like a thing to, I knew that some of these properties were in trouble when they started to charge locals for parking on their property and not paying their entertainers what they need to be paying them. A lot of my friends who are Vegas entertainers and have been for a long time, big names there, their contracts are either not renegotiated or renegotiated at a much lower price, and just all sorts of things. So these properties aren't doing all that well, and they're not doing themselves any justice by taking it out on the public the way that they do. So I'm not a fan of their strategy at all.
Jamie, I'm just going, back in time here when we talked about this, as we got about 3 minutes here before we got to go to break. You were investigating the idea of the potential of a second shooter at that event. Did you ever pin anybody down to confirm that there was multiple shooters?
In all honesty, no. I did look into that. We had a lot of people looking into that, and quite frankly, that was a big concern, not only for myself and other alternative news sources and other things, but also people who were there on the ground. A lot of my friends who were actually at the event, this was a big concern. And a lot of people who were actually at the event were convinced, and actually, to be honest with you, are convinced that there were more than one shooter. But to date, I don't think, I've seen a lot of conspiracy theories out there, but I haven't been convinced one way or the other that there necessarily was a second shooter. there were some questions about some things, some forensic type things like echoes and sounds, and even people on the ground were saying, we thought there was a shooter over here and there was a shooter over there, but in an all concrete type, the argument's been made that if you're in a situation with all of those buildings where sound can ricochet and all of that concrete and other ambient noise around, I'm not so sure that you might not be confused by echoes and ricochets and all sorts of different things. So I don't know. I've heard arguments on both sides, and like I said, I haven't seen anything necessarily that would convince me per se that there was another shooter. But I wouldn't rule it out either. I mean, we may never know the exact truth of what happened there, to be honest with you.
And you looked into it because your friends who were there, I believe a couple of them survived, but they were wounded.
Yes.
They were saying that there was potentially a second shooter, and you doing your homework, I can tell the difference from when we first talked about this, because you were saying you strongly believed there was a second shooter, but you've obviously done more homework on this to see that there potentially isn't, even though you haven't ruled it out. Would you consider this, and we're going to go to break here, we're going to continue this story after the break, and I'll leave you with this question. Would you consider this then one of those false flag hoaxes, or is this just a madman that went mad? We're going to find out more about that right after this. We got Jamie Sexton here from the Rebel Planet. Jamie comes in the third Wednesday of every month right here on Spaced Out Radio. His next appearance will be Thursday, October 18th. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back right after this.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm going to take you for a ride every Sunday night on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to set up your week with some strange tales from across North America, from psychic readings, Sasquatch, UFOs, to the most haunted locations. Come join me at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, and let's get weird together. I'd love for you to join me. Spaced Out Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
There's news, and there's The Encounter. This is Spaced Out Radio News Director Everett Thiemer inviting you to check out The Encounter. Our half-hour news segment every Monday through Friday night is different compared to what you're used to. Our goal is to bring you the weird, strange, and interesting stories the mainstream tends to leave out. and stories that will make you scratch your head in disbelief. The Encounter can also be found at spacedoutradio.com and on our Facebook page, SOR The Encounter. Come give us a read.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. Tomorrow night on the show, we have a network replay as I will be making my way down to Washington State to take in Saturday's Forest Moon Paracon. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. And don't forget, you can play all of our archives for free off our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. It is Tractor. Tractor is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, space travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, shop at our store, read up on the encounter online, and so much more. Don't forget, tickets are on sale right now for the first annual Caribou Paracon next weekend, September 28th through 30th. I want to see you all up here. Come on up. It's going to be a great event. Grant Cameron, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, Eric Cooper, myself will all be speaking, and so many more. It's put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers at the Spruce Hill Resort and Spa. Go to questers.ca, that's questers.ca, and get your tickets right now. Tonight, it's The Rebel Planet with Jamie Sexton. We do this show talking about all things alternative news the third Thursday of every month. Jamie's next appearance will be Thursday, October 18th. Jamie, welcome back.
Good to be back. So the password tonight is tractor?
Yeah. Yeah, Bill
that's
Bill
not
was
very
a little
unusual.
Bill was a little slow on the draw.
Yeah.
He just came up with it. Follow-skepsis or skepsis. Follow-skepsis. Follow-skepsis is your password. Yes.
So it's not tractor.
It's not tractor anymore. It's
Did
follow-skepsis.
he come out of a nap? Okay.
Well, no. Apparently, he's having some major thunderstorms happening in his town. So he lost signal there for a little bit. So I had to quickly
you made
pull
up
something
the
off
track.
my head. Yeah, so I quickly pulled tractor. Yeah.
You know, when I was a kid, I was riding along with my mom in the car, and I said, hey, mommy, I seen a farmer on a tractor back there. And she's a stickler for grammar. So she said, I saw a farmer back there. And I said, no fair, I seen him first.
Awesome. Just awesome. Mom schooling you right there, eh?
Yeah, she always does, even to this day.
Oh, yeah, that's what a good mom does. That's what a good mom does. Hey, right before the break, we were talking about MGM Grand suing the victims of the Las Vegas shooting, and Gail had asked why they would be doing that, and apparently they are targeting the victims and threatened to sue or have sued them because that's the way they can try and basically save money. That way the company can declare they have no liability to the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. Still ugly. Still ugly.
Very ugly. I don't like the strategy at all. Yep.
Right. So I hope that answers your question, Gail. Thank you so much for posting it. But we have, there is still a big controversy here between a lot of the false flaggers and people who believe that this shooting was a hoax. I prefer to, and this is just my opinion on this, all right? I don't believe that it was a hoax. I believe it was a diary of a madman. And something just snapped. Is there a lot of unanswered questions? Absolutely. Will we ever see them? No, we're not privy to the information. However, what's your take on that?
Well, you'd mentioned before the break that I had a change of heart. I didn't necessarily have a change of heart. My approach with these type of things, and it's always the same. I'm pretty consistent in the way that I process any of these big events like this. And there's been, hundreds of them over the past decade, a couple of decades. School shootings, mass shootings, you name it, anything. Here's the way I approach it. When a big event happens, if I'm not there, or if any one of us isn't there, we don't necessarily know what happened. We can all interject our opinions, and we can take the information that we're given from whatever source that may be, whether we know somebody that happened to be there or news agencies or whatever. We can gather all the pieces of the puzzle we're privy to and begin to process that within our own thinking process. And some people are very irresponsible about that. My approach is this. If something doesn't look right, in other words, if for example, if there's an event and the police and the news agencies and everything else seem to be saying, well, this is what happened, this is the narrative, and they're trying to put it into a box, and they're saying, well, I have no reason right off the cuff to disbelieve them, even if I have a great mistrust for mainstream media, which I do, which, I come by honestly because I've developed that over the years. But I, on face value, if they're, reporting a story, well, I should just take it at face value initially that they're telling me the facts. However, when things start to not add up with something, I think it's not only everybody's instinct, but it's your right to question whatever you want to question. You can question it as much as you want, and I think we should question events. And if something isn't right, we need to ask the questions. And I don't think we should ever, ever, ever be told that we can't discuss something, or we can't ask questions, or investigate. That violates at least two big principles with me when you're told that you're not allowed to question something. Number one, it's your freedom. As a personal individual and a free-thinking person in this world, you have a right to think and wonder and speculate and ask anything and everything that comes to your mind. And the minute someone tells you that you do not have that freedom for whatever reason, that is wrong. That is wrong. And we've seen that in a lot of events. Well, you can't ask that question because people are sensitive about that one, or, children were involved in this one or that one, or whatever it may be, whatever the event may be. I don't sign up with that. To me, whenever you start putting stipulations and regulations on what people can discuss and talk about or question, that's a dangerous, slippery slope. So when the Vegas story came out, for example, like I said, I did have friends on the ground that were extremely close. They worked, some of my friends worked the show. Some of my friends actually took some of the victims to the hospital in their own vehicle. A couple of the victims that they did that for died. I had two friends that were wounded at the show. I had friends that worked in the MGM. I mean, I lived there for over 13 years and was, extremely immersed in the entire social scene there. I knew a lot of people there. So, yes, I was directly affected by it, in that sense. And I also was in contact with people who were there. And they had questions. In fact, I kind of gauged my own sensibilities and my own inquisitive, investment in that particular story, if you'll remember, based on them. In other words, I kind of took the temperature of the people who were there at the scene, and went by that. And they were the ones that seemed to be convinced that there was more than one shooter. And to this day, some of them still say that, and they don't like the way that the sheriff handled the event. They don't like the way that the MGM handled the event, and they still have questions. But so my instinct in the beginning didn't necessarily lean one way or the other. I really couldn't get one of those sort of instinctual gut feelings about, was this real or was this not? I definitely had questions because a lot of the things didn't add up. But usually when something like this happens, I'll end up in a place in my own, in my own mind. I may not know all the facts, but at the end of the day, I'll feel like, well, if I had to go with my gut instinct, I think it's probably this, or I think it's probably that. In this case, I can't really even arrive at that. Like I said earlier, I haven't seen anything at all convince me that there were multiple shooters at this event. Are there questions? Absolutely. There's some, in my mind, there are some serious questions about that event. You know, a lot of it, you know, I don't know if we want to get into this, maybe not, but maybe we can get into it another time. But, you know, a lot of it has to do with the crime scene itself. In other words, the gunman's room and the way all that went down, and a couple of other key things. Some things to me just to this day don't make sense. But what that amounts to, in other words, well, what does all that mean? What do all these unanswered questions or bizarre, you know, sort of anomalies in the story, what do they mean per se? I really can't come to a conclusion over that myself. I do think to this date there are still questions, and, you know, it'd be nice to have some of those questions answered. Unfortunately, I don't think we ever will. You know,
I don't think so either. Max is asking, can you comment on people saying they heard shooting sounds were coming out of the speakers? I mean, the microphones would have picked. Yeah, the microphones would have picked that up, which would have, which could have potentially made sounds.
Absolutely.
Of more,
yeah, I mean,
of more shooters.
Exactly. Yeah, if the microphones were left hot, if they were still on, any show like that, you're going to have all kinds of reverberation going on. In other words, a concert that size, there's so much reverb that happens. And first of all, you have reverb that's built in as an effect on the microphones. In other words, you put reverb on a voice to make it sound better. So there's already reverb and echo and everything on those microphones. Secondly, you usually have at least two stages of a PA system. You'll have a PA system that's on the stage, which is a very large PA system, and then about 100, anywhere from 60 to 100 yards out, you'll probably have another PA. And if it's a smaller venue, you'll have one a little closer in, a smaller PA than that. But it's and that causes reverb. And then again, you've got all the buildings around, and you've got a lot of concrete and all sorts of things that sound can reverberate off of. So yes, if those microphones were left hot while all that shooting was happening, it stands to reason that they would have probably picked up some of those shots and bounce the sound around, you know, in a very peculiar way. So, yeah, that's definitely a consideration as well.
Mm-hmm. I think so. We're going to move over topics here to the next one because we do have more topics to go through with you tonight. And one of the topics that I want to get to is very, very intriguing right now. It is what has happened at the Sunstop Observatory.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that was an amazing, amazing story. I mean, here we got in New Mexico this national observatory that was being shut down by the FBI and government officials. There's Black Hawk helicopters flying all over this town. The local police was not even called. And yet, now the official word coming out is that there was child porn found on a computer.
Right.
That seems quite extensive for something horrific to be on a computer where they could just walk in with the local authorities and the FBI and take the computers.
Right.
Because an IP address was there. Do you not think?
Right. From what I understand, they're saying that a janitor was looking at child porn on a computer. To me, like you say, that first of all, local authorities should have been involved at the very least, if not really in charge of that, if they wanted to pursue that. That's generally not the way those things are handled, for sure. And I wasn't able to confirm. You brought this story to my attention yourself, and I wasn't able to confirm the whole Black Hawk helicopter thing. Where did we hear that from? Has that been confirmed on your end?
On my end, I saw a couple of reports on that, and there was other people talking about it as well. I mean, I realize you have to take social media at face value when it comes to these types of conversations. But, you know, the thing that I find very, very weird about this, okay, and let's get out of the whole, I'm not a big fan of talking about, you know, that type of images on computers. I think it's disgusting, and as a father, it just absolutely stuns me. Okay,
sure,
that could happen, and it makes me quite queasy to my stomach to even, you know, mention those words. But nonetheless, I just.
But it also is peculiar. It is peculiar, Dave, that a lot of times, whenever an investigation needs to be covered up or they need some sort of excuse for something, it does seem that's been a suspicious sort of go-to excuse that I've seen used before as justification for investigations and all sorts of things. So, I you know, it is a little suspicious just on its face.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's kind of the point that I'm getting at, is we have had a number of people on this show who have said, like, after the Kennedy assassination, the government just doesn't kill people anymore. And, I mean, that's kind of an infamous quote. And the new one, in order to, you know, kind of cover things up, it's easy to destroy a reputation by saying child pornography and attaching someone's name to it. They're destroyed because no matter what, even if they are found innocent, that scarlet letter is still sewn on their front and back.
Oh, yeah. And it's so easy to do. It's so easy to do because from what I understand, to investigate someone for that, it doesn't take much at all. And you know how computers work nowadays, you know, and browsers and things with cookies and all kinds of things. Something can be stored on your computer as a search when you never searched for that at all. You know, it just came up. And a lot of times it's something that comes up on your computer that never really came up on your screen. In other words, it's not something you viewed or chose to view or anything else. In other words, what I'm saying is things can end up on your computer beyond your control. And just because something is on your computer wouldn't necessarily mean that you had anything to do with it or were up to no good. So who's to say that you couldn't take that a step further and plant something on someone's computer and say, well, there it is. Something horrible is on your computer, or something top secret is on your computer, or whatever. You know what I mean? You're not supposed to have that, or you're not supposed to be, and you're like, I had no idea that was on my computer. You understand what I'm saying? So, in other words, it's kind of like planting evidence. It becomes a whole new way of planting something on someone without their knowledge. Becomes a lot more easy to do in the cyber world. So if a government or an agency or something wanted to be nefarious like that and set someone up, it wouldn't be too hard to do, actually, and use that as a reason to investigate them or smear them or anything else.
Well, here's my thing on this, okay? The official story aside, maybe I'm a little bit too tinfoil hat-ish here. I think they found something. Now, I've had good, frank discussions. I think it's one of two things. I think, number one, there was some sort of espionage going on where their computers were hacked and they had to go get rid of those computers because maybe, just maybe, they were putting that telescope maybe not on the sun, but on something else. Could be spy satellites, could be bases on the moon, or whatever. I'm getting real peak woo here. I do get that. All right. It could have been espionage. But, you know, the UFO nut in me, I want to believe that they found something. And it could have been, you know, a mothership of a UFO hanging out by the sun. And if they were picking it up and it looked that big, I mean, imagine what it would look like next to Earth. You know what I'm saying, Jamie? And that's what I'm curious about. And I'll tell you, if I break down the timeline on things, and I was talking to Rich Giordano about this, a good friend of mine, and Everett Thiemer about this, and Amy Martin as well. If you look at the timeline, all right, you go back to, and people are going to roll their eyes at me when I say To the Stars Academy and Tom DeLonge, okay, but DeLonge, you know, they come out October 6th. Then we have the New York Times article December 17th. DeLonge goes on Joe Rogan's show basically saying we got to put nuclear weapons up in space because aliens are bad and they are afraid of our nukes. I think he forgot the whole Robert Salas story about how the UFOs were flying over the nuclear bases in Russia and the United States, shutting down these missile sites at their beck and call. I think he forgot about that. But here he was on Joe Rogan saying we got to put nuclear weapons up in space. All right? So I look at that and I think, okay, then Donald Trump comes out and starts talking about the Space Force. We're going to create a sixth member of the United States military, which is the Space Force. And nobody really knows what that's about. Are we talking about actually just putting missiles up in space, much like Ronald Reagan's Star Wars? Or are we actually talking about putting people up there in case of invasion, in case of maybe putting a base on the moon, which a lot of people already feel is there if you're a believer in the secret space program? Maybe this is all part of the disclosure movement. And now, the way this observatory was handled, to me, it just seems like it's a step-by-step process, because there have been many people in the field of ufology who say that the next big false flag event is going to be an Orson Welles War of the Worlds type discussion where aliens are coming down to attack us. And that's why I'm wondering whether or not this is some sort of false flag event on a mock alien invasion.
What would be the false flag part about the New Mexico raid?
Well, I mean, if they can say that they found something, all right, because, you know, things have a way of leaking.
Right, but nothing's leaked yet.
Not yet. It's only a couple days old.
Right. So you're suggesting that we may hear that. No, I know. Well, you definitely have weaved an entire fable there together, and you may not be wrong, Dave. But I couldn't go that far based on that. But I will say this: I will say that it is highly suspicious. Highly suspicious, especially if that big of a presence, if a federal presence was there in New Mexico. I know they shut the facility down. When did it go down? On the 6th? Is that when they shut it down?
They shut it down around the 6th, yes.
Yeah, and it just opened up, what, a few days ago?
Yeah, like a day or two.
Right. So that's and all they needed to do was investigate a one computer that a janitor was looking at child porn on. That Yeah, that's highly suspicious.
But for something something like that, okay, why wasn't the local police called? All the reports all the reports show that the local police were not called.
Right. They at the very least, you have to understand that the way that breaks down is that they would have to get permission. As far as I understand it, they would have had to get permission from the sheriff's department there to even enforce a federal warrant on a private citizen. Normally, I mean, ultimately, no, you don't have to. Ever since the Patriot Act, the feds can pretty much do anything they want without local law enforcement. But as a matter of protocol, you would think that they would still contact the local sheriff's department and before they conducted any sort of a raid. I mean, it wasn't like they were enacting a warrant where they thought they had children tied up in the basement or something. It was, they were looking at supposedly one IP address, looking at images on the internet, which if true is a horrible thing. If you're looking at child pornography, that's terrible, and it should be investigated and prosecuted, sure, but I don't think you need a team of FBI agents and Black Hawk helicopters and everything to accomplish that.
Mm-hmm. There is a report. I'm reading a report right now that there was a Black Hawk helicopter in the area.
Yeah, that just seems highly excessive for the extent of what that warrant was supposed to be pursuing.
I mean, here's the thing. Okay, it shut down September 6th. We're now at September 20th. So that's almost 12 days or 2 weeks. 2 weeks. All right? Mm-hmm. That this facility was shut down. Mm-hmm. What the heck do you need 2 weeks in that location for if you're just grabbing the computers? And exactly. And if you've allegedly got the suspect and you've got the computers, you've got his locker room, you're obviously going to search the entire building. Right. But looking at this, we're not talking about a skyscraper here that's 40 stories high.
I think there are multiple buildings on that facility, though.
There are.
Yeah, multiple buildings on that facility. But still, I agree with you. Once you have the IP, because as far as I understood it, the warrant was specific to an individual, which apparently was a janitor, from what I understand, and the warrant was specific to an IP address, one IP address.
Right.
And I don't know if that was a device IP or if that was a location IP. If it's a location IP, it'll take a little longer. If it's a device IP, then it's going to be, they find the device. That's really all they're supposed to be looking for as far as warrants go, as far as I understand it. But if it's a location IP, in other words, if they were all sharing one network and that network had a common IP address, then you could search probably every device attached to that, or whatever else you may find. Blah, 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 or maybe you might have enough to go and extend your warrant, but none of that was mentioned. What was mentioned was one IP address in the warrant and one suspect as far as I know, did they even arrest anyone? I didn't see anything about an arrest.
No.
Did you?
I just heard that the janitor was the suspect in this.
The suspect, right.
Right. I don't think, as far as and I'm going to be looking here right now, I don't think any charges have been officially laid yet.
Right. So it took them 2 weeks to shut down a facility. That, to me, you know what that seems like to me, Dave? That seems like to me... Now, think about, I know I'm going to be off on a rabbit trail, but you went on yours, so
okay.
If you'll indulge me for a minute. What does an observatory do?
They look up into the stars.
It's in the name. They observe.
Exactly.
Right? Well, if you didn't want somebody to observe something for a matter of several days, what do? You just shut them down. So maybe there's something up there they didn't want them to observe.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, because here they had, okay, I'm looking at another news report, okay, they had Black Hawk helicopter flying over the facility.
Right.
They evacuated neighboring residences. If this is off an IP address for child pornography, why are you evacuating neighboring residences and workplaces?
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Exactly.
It does not make sense to me.
Instead of your suggestion earlier that they saw something, maybe they were trying to prevent them from seeing something. I mean, it's just an idea, but, you know, it would be an excuse to shut them down if they wanted to, if they didn't want them looking up in the sky at a particular time. You know what I mean?
Well, there was an initial thought that there was a mercury leak, because mercury is used in the telescope, or a lethal solar flare, alien messages coming down, or maybe it was some sort of terrorist attack, like a computer attack. But evacuating residences and evacuating business people and townspeople just does not make any type of official sense on this. And this is where I worry about it, because if it's just over an IP address, the whole child pornography thing is a topic that scares people away. You know what I'm saying? People get mad, and it's a disgusting
but if I'm going to follow
right?
If I were to follow the path of logic on this, I would say this. If the FBI was executing a warrant, right, and they claim in the warrant, which is an official, issued document, which gives them special authority to do what they did, right? And in the warrant, it specifically said they were investigating child porn per this IP address, and they even had a suspect. Okay, so two possibilities right off the bat. Either A, they're telling the truth, which would make their actions seem excessive and a little bit out of jurisdiction, at least, in an exclusive way. So either they're telling the truth and it's a little odd, or B, they're not telling the truth and that was a cover-up. So you have to start with that. In other words, that's just a cover story. That was an excuse to raid the place and get everybody out there and shut it down for almost 2 weeks. So, you just kind of got to follow what you see and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense just off the beginning. It doesn't seem correct to me that they would be executing a federal warrant without at least consulting, if not with the assistance of the local sheriff's department, and for them to shut down and evacuate the entire facility for almost 2 weeks. All of that, and Black Hawk helicopters, et cetera, it all seems a little askew. It doesn't seem to add up, does it?
No.
So then when you go from there,
that's my issue. I mean, here's another piece.
So if you're going to go from there, you're going to say, well, they're making they're using that as a cover. What's the next logical step? You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Here's another little piece to fan the flames. Okay, after days of silence, the FBI sent all media inquiries over to a group called AURA, which is the Association of Universities in Research for Astronomy. They're in charge of the observatory. Well, what AURA does is they release a media statement declaring a security issue. Now, yes, what was found out today... Okay, what was found out today could be a computer issue. But when I think security issue, I'm thinking some sort of terrorism. All right, maybe computer, cyber terrorism, cyber warfare. I'm thinking, some sort of alien conspiracy because they are staring into space. Yes, I have my tinfoil hat on right now. But that's what I'm thinking. Maybe a computer hack. Maybe somebody stole the ability to control the cameras that are recording the feeds or positioning the telescopes. I'm not
but some of that would fall under But any of those, some of those things which you mentioned as possibilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would they some of those may still fall under the heading of crime, right?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, that would be a just reason for the federal for the FBI to come in there and do an investigation. So if that were the case, why didn't their warrant say that? In other words, let's say they were investigating terrorism. Why wouldn't they just get a warrant to investigate terrorism and make, in other words, you know what I'm saying? Why would they invent an alternative reason and have that be in the warrant? So, my thinking is that if it were a legitimate investigation around something else that we should be concerned about as a public, there's somebody trying to hack our computers or position our cameras or steal information or anything that the public should be concerned about that as the people, our FBI should be involved with, well, why didn't the warrant say that then? If it were legitimate, well, why didn't the warrant say that? Why would it say child pornography going after a janitor if we were investigating something else? See what I'm saying? In other words, it doesn't, to me, that doesn't follow the path of reasoning. It sort of seems to me that if they did lie and it's not a janitor, they wouldn't lie for, in other words, it has to be something they don't want you to know, not something that we should know. If it were terrorism, they should just get a warrant to investigate terrorism. They should tell the public, they should involve the local law enforcement, and they should put all their cards on the table. They shouldn't make up a story about a janitor and child pornography if we're investigating terrorism, because the public should know about that. You see what I'm saying? So it doesn't stand to reason that they're investigating something legitimate that they have a right to investigate, and they make up a story. So again, you have to go back. Are they telling the truth, or is it something else? So my feeling.
Oh, go ahead.
My feeling is if they're making up a lie, and they're actually investigating, we're just hypothesizing. But my feeling is that if they're making up a story, and it's really not about child pornography or a janitor, then it's probably something they don't want you to know about. In other words, it's not a real, it's not something they want to reveal to the public. That's where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I can see that. How would the janitor have access to the passwords? And I'm not saying that, okay, because it is a laborious job that the person isn't computer literate. But you would think
we don't know.
You would think, though, that those type of computers, yes, you're going to send in a janitor to clean the area, the workspace. I get that. Okay, happens all the time in any type of business.
Right.
But you would think that some of these computers would be locked down. You don't think that the janitor
we don't know if the janitor. we don't know if the janitor was using his cell phone and just happened to be logged on to the network there, sharing the network IP. See what I'm saying? We don't know if he had passwords or anything else. If it truly is a janitor looking at, children on the internet, we don't know if he's doing that on his laptop and on his lunch break, or a secure computer at the facility, or on his iPhone, sharing the network password. We don't know. We weren't told all of that. We were just told that it was an IP located at the facility, right, and the janitor. So we weren't given a whole lot of information. All I'm saying is that why does it take almost 2 weeks to do your investigation there? That seems a bit highly excessive. If it is the janitor and you knew the IP, you should be able to whittle that down within a few days tops.
But most businesses also have multiple IP addresses, as well as multiple secure IPs, where I would assume, just out of my own, what I've learned about IP addresses since we built this studio. All right. And I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to talking about computers or IP addresses and how they work. But I would assume, from what little I do know, that this observatory would have some sort of secure IPs, so that way the technology would be protected. And, if it was the janitor who was on a company IP, shutting down the facility is a little bit excessive. Right.
Well, devices have their own IP address. An IP is an Internet Protocol address, is what it is, and it's a unique address that each device, whether it be a tablet or a phone or anything, that's its ID, and that IP is used to communicate with other devices over the internet or over a network. And then a network, like some of the devices within a network, also have their own IP. So sometimes there's several IPs at play at one location. But they weren't that specific from what I read about what they were pursuing. They just said that there was the searches or whatever it was they were investigating came from an IP located at that facility. So, I guess we'll learn more about what they're doing or did later on, but so far it just seems excessive. Number one, the raid itself, and a little peculiar the way they went about it, especially if there were Black Hawk helicopters and didn't contact the local law enforcement and all that sort of thing. That just seems a little weird. Not that we shouldn't investigate child pornography. Of course you should, but it seems the tactic seems highly irregular, is what I'm getting at. So it leads one to be suspicious about, are they telling the truth, and the fact that they took so long to investigate such a thing. So I go back to the fundamentals. Are they lying or are they telling the truth? And if they're lying, it would suggest to me that they're lying to cover up something else, and it's something they don't want you to know.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I don't see them coming back later and saying, I don't see them coming back at a later time and saying, well, we made up the story about the janitor. What we were really investigating was terrorism. I don't see that happening, is what I'm saying.
Very true. Very true. And I do really believe, though, that it was something else.
Well,
you
may be right. Like
I want to believe. I want to believe it was aliens, man. I want to believe it was aliens. My theory sounds way so. It is so peak woo out there. Stealing Chris Cogswell's peak woo. Thank you, Chris. But it is so peak woo that I am, I think I got the best theory. If we're making up theories, I got the best theory. And it is still plausible, man. It is still plausible.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, anything's plausible or possible in this universe, isn't it, Dave? We're not going to dismiss anything.
No.
We're not going to dismiss. Hopefully, we'll find something out. But sadly, like most things, we probably will never know the truth.
Never know the truth. It just seems like a weird place to cover something up, doesn't it?
Sure. Well, the fact, anything, here's the thing, man. Anything that surrounds an observatory or NASA or the military, anything that, we don't generally know much about, you're left to fill in the blanks, and inquisitive minds will do that. Conspiratorial minds will do that, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's kind of why I got into what I do and what I'm curious about in the world, which kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's like, a lot of times what these agencies, government agencies, whether it be your local police force or, your local government or the federal government or the international bodies of government, any position of authority, if they would stop being so secretive when they don't have to be, a lot of this stuff wouldn't be left to speculation. It just seems to me that there's a whole lot of secrecy and behind the scenes stuff when it's really not necessary. I know the justification, there's all kinds of justifications for that sort of thing. Oh, it's a matter of national security, or it's a matter of international security, or it's a matter of protecting information in an ongoing investigation, blah, 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 which usually all of that turns out to be crap. You know what I mean? Generally, in the wind up, they could have told us a whole lot more in the beginning. They just didn't. And, whenever you leave voids in narratives, you leave, spaces for people to fill in those blanks. And they do. And then inquisitive minds will go one direction or another. But isn't it curious, though, if we look back in time, out of all the information that wasn't shared and people were left to speculate, isn't it interesting in hindsight how we've been able to accurately fill in so many blanks over time, that we weren't told on our own. The public can do that because we're not naive, we're not stupid, we're gullible sometimes, but we're not stupid. If we just learn to figure these things out in a more methodical way and sort of in our own sort of critical thinking, investigative way, we can kind of, fill in the blanks, at least speculatively, and sometimes arrive at something pretty close to the truth. And I don't know. I don't, like I said earlier, I don't think that we should ever be told that we're not allowed to ask questions or we're not allowed to discuss this or that or the other thing. And I really think that our agencies, our elected officials, and so on, really need to get their head out of their butt and start sharing more information with the public and stop being so secretive.
Well, this did set off the whole conspiracy theorist community, Jamie. Possibilities of an illegal operation undercover, to aliens, to Russia and China spying, mercury contamination. It could have been a lot of things. And
gnome invasion. Could have been a gnome invasion.
It could have been a gnome invasion. Yes, you had to bring that up, didn't you? You have no idea how I'm going to be tortured now. You have no idea how I'm going to be tortured. The minute you say that word. The minute you say that word. My goodness. We got about 90 seconds here before we got to go to break. But, you know, is this something that we should keep an eye on going forward? Do you think
something we should keep an eye on?
Or do you think that this is something we should just, okay, it's over, they figured it out, and let's just drop it and move on?
Oh, no. Move on. No, I don't think we should ever drop anything that when there's an investigation. I think that kind of goes as an add-on to my earlier statement. I think that we should really revisit things and demand some follow-up answers from big events that happen in our world and in our communities. You know, we need to start asking more questions and saying, hey, remember that Las Vegas shooting, Sheriff's Department? Can we have a follow-up? I know it's been, a year after the fact, but can you kind of address the public officially in an official capacity and say, let us know kind of where you're at with the investigation now? But that never happens, what's wrong with letting people know where you're at and stuff, because is the investigation closed? Is it over? Or is it still ongoing? And like this thing in New Mexico, where's the windup? What'd you find? Did you find anything on the computer, or is that really what it was about? All these answers, all these questions need to be followed up with. And I think we need to start holding our government officials to the fire and their feet to the fire and asking them, hey, remember this? Whatever happened with that?
Yes. Yet Harry Reid, former senator of Nevada, didn't tell us about aliens and the search for them. But that's something I digress with. Jamie, hold on. We're going to go to our final break of the night. Jamie Sexton is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. The Rebel Planet happens the third Thursday of every month, where we get into the news behind the news with the Rebel Planet. Jamie's next appearance will be Thursday, October 18th. We got another half hour left before Everett Themer comes in for the encounter. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us and bring your questions for us to investigate right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
When it comes to the news, we look for the stories that the mainstream won't cover. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter. This is News Director Everett Thiemer. The Encounter is about the weird and strange stories that occur daily, and we scour the world looking to bring them to you. You can hear me with Dave Scott every Monday through Friday in our Encounter news segment. Read us online at spacedoutradio.com or check us out and give our Facebook page a like at SOR The Encounter. So come give The Encounter a read.
From the Mile High State of Colorado, sharing our signal around the world, I invite you to Spaced Out Sundays. Hi, I'm Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm closing out the week by taking you on a paranormal journey to the world of the weird. Ghosts, aliens, psychic phenomena, I will hit it all in your questions too. So let us highlight the paranormal for you. So come join me for Spaced Out Sundays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, we are going to be running a network replay because I got to make my way down to Washington State. I'll be in Cedar-Woolley, Washington for the third annual Forest Moon Paracon. So I'm going to be speaking down there on Saturday. If you want to come on to Washington State and attend, that would be great. So it'll be a replay tomorrow night. We are going to replay Tim Schwartz's show where we talked about time travel earlier this month. So we're going to replay that one tomorrow night. And that starts at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. The chat rooms will be open. We welcome back everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. Don't forget, all of our archives for free at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club on Fellow Skeptics. Oh, I butchered that. How do you butcher that? I got it right. On Fellow Skepsis. Fellow Skepsis is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, shop at our store, read up on the encounter online, and so much more. Don't forget, next week, September 28th through 30th, the first annual Caribou Paracon presented by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. You can go to questers.ca. That's questers.ca. Click on the fall conference. Get your tickets right now. For the final time tonight, we introduce Jamie Sexton. He is with the Rebel Planet. He is our alternative news section that happens the third Thursday of every month. His next appearance will be Thursday, October 18th. Jamie, glad to have you back. We got this one flying on by.
Good to be back. Did he change the password again?
Well, Fellow Skepsis. You know, it was originally Tractor, but he changed it.
Yeah, but okay, I thought there was one in between. All right.
No, there wasn't one in between. Hey, just quickly sticking with what we were talking about in the last little bit here on the show. And
right.
that is about the Sunspot Observatory being shut down. Now, there was allegedly other observatories that were shut down around the world as well, in Australia, in Hawaii, Pennsylvania, Spain,
mm-hmm. Right,
and in Chile as well. And if these other observatories were shut down, how does this add to the mystery of what's happened and the official documents coming out that this was a child pornography case by a janitor?
Right. Yeah, like you say, there's so much suspicion around this, and there. You know, I'd heard that as well. That those other observatories had been shut down temporarily. And if that's the case and there's a connection there, well, then we know that was a manufactured story. So I don't know. Maybe we'll find out more to come. Maybe you'll get your aliens after all, Dave.
I'm telling you, it's totally about aliens tonight, man. Totally about aliens. Now I know Amy Martin is going to be listening in, and she's going to be like, "No, it was a hack." And I'll be like, "No, you don't wear enough tinfoil." And she'll be like, "No, I don't need to wear tinfoil because it was. It sounds to me like it was a major computer hack of some sort of Russia or Korea or China." And I'm going to be like,
"I think it was the Nellums."
I'm going to be like, "No, Amy, it was all about aliens, and the mothership is up there, and the Space Force, and it's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly. I can see it right now. I can see it right now happening that way." But nonetheless, I mean, there were reports that these were closed. There was reports that they were open, and it was not confirmed. I mean, this is a conspiracy theorist dream, though, this story. You do have to admit that.
Oh, yeah. The more holes there are, the more holes to fill. Never mind.
I want to get to another story tonight because Elon Musk, whom I think is one of the most brilliant minds going right now. We know him from SpaceX. We know him from Tesla vehicles, PayPal, creator, and this is a pretty smart guy. Earlier this month, he was on the Joe Rogan Experience. Joe Rogan lights up a joint, passes it over to Elon, who takes a hit. And all of a sudden, the shares for all of Elon Musk's companies start to drop right after that. Do you think taking a hit on a joint in California where it's legal is a good move or a dumb move, or do you think he just does not care because he just does things the way he wants to do things?
Well, I mean, he's worth $20 billion. I don't think he really cares too much. And I don't blame him. I don't smoke weed, but, if it's legal and he wants to do it, do it. I mean, I don't if the stock market is that sensitive, they're out of touch with reality, But I did see some of that interview. I don't know. Musk is a strange cat to me. He's a very awkward personality. It's very hard for me to read that guy, to be honest with you. I know he's supposedly extremely intelligent, and I guess he learned to do computer programming at the age of 10, and he was one of the co-founders of PayPal and all sorts of things. And of course, you mentioned the Tesla thing. So yeah, I mean, he's definitely not stupid, but he's such an awkward cat, I think he's a bit of a conspiracy theorist too, like we are. I think he is. Yeah.
Well, you know what though?
He has a lot of concerns about AI and things like that. I've heard him talk about.
Well, he's not a fan of AI. He is not a fan of AI. He thinks there is a real danger to that, and we must be, very careful with what goes on there. And I tend to agree with it. But it's funny because the United States government, especially the military, has a very strong prohibition of marijuana with anybody who has any sort of government security clearance. And now the United States Air Force is conducting an investigation on whether or not to remove him from that security clearance.
Of course they are. Oh, man.
But I mean, is the
I don't
rule,
think he, didn't he say
antiquated?
on the show he's not? I really don't have an opinion on that one way or the other, man. I don't partake in the smoking of marijuana or the consumption thereof, but I have a lot of friends that do, so I don't really judge. But I think he did say in that interview, I think he was pretty clear to say that he does not partake himself. He was just doing it for Joe's amusement, as far as I can tell. So I don't think that's really anything to get up in arms about, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people who are still quite sensitive to the fact that he did that, and the fact that you have somebody of his stature, using pot, which is a prohibited substance.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, but on the flip side, he does have a lot of money involved and a lot of ties and invested in the government.
Prohibited. It's not prohibited in California. It's legal.
Yeah.
So
his shares dropped 9% after the taping of that, but they came back up by 5%. So he's still down 4.
So he's still down 5. Oh, he's still down 4.
Yeah, he's still down 4.
That was an expensive hit.
That was an expensive hit. But do you think he cares though? Because I mean, it's very, very rare in life that we get a brain that works like Elon Musk's. There aren't many out there. You could say Nikola Tesla was that way. You could say Albert Einstein was that way. You could say, Stephen Hawking is that way. Neil deGrasse Tyson on a similar scale.
He should get a puff pass.
Well, I'm not saying he should get a puff pass, but I mean, the rules are the rules, right?
I think you should do take the Bill Clinton defense and just say he didn't inhale. Be done with it.
He looked quite amateur at it. I mean, I'm not a pot smoker either, but he did look quite amateur at it. But he also made another comment that was kind of strange after that happened, where he basically said that he thought he was an alien. Could that have been?
Well, I don't think he put it that way, did he? I think Joe was pressing him about why he was so different. He said, "Do you feel different when you're around normal people?" And he was building him up, and I think he said it's because I'm an alien. Yeah. And Joe said, "Yeah, we were talking about that. Yeah, I think it's What do you think? Do you think Musk is an alien?"
No, not at all.
Okay.
I think he is a very, very brilliant man. I really do. And probably if we, minus the fact that he made a flamethrower that he wants people to be able to purchase, I think he has made some very, very strong statements around the world by going against the grain.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of cool. And I think we need more of that.
I like that flamethrower idea. Is pretty damn cool. Yeah, he's a citizen of Canada, United States, and South Africa, I believe, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah. So he's not an alien in those three places.
The UK, not Canada. But we're all part of the Commonwealth, so that doesn't really matter.
Okay.
We're all Commonwealth strong. Commonwealth strong. But I mean, either way, do you see that this could change or put the whole space program and where things are going with SpaceX into a lull? Do you see them all of a sudden, or them being the United States government, now abandoning the entire SpaceX program? I mean, realistically, if they do, Musk can just turn to another country, whether it's Japan, India, China, Russia, whoever else has space programs, and put it there. Invest there, because it's all private money.
No, his relationship, whatever it may be, with the government is based on his wealth and his reputation, and it's not going to change because he took a little hit off of a joint with Joe Rogan. Not at all. I mean, if he's bought himself into the big boy club with his accomplishments and his money, that's not going to change. This is the story of the week kind of stuff. That'll just disappear. He's fine.
Gail has a question.
He's 20 billion. He's 20 billion kind of fine. You know what I mean?
Gail has a question. She says, Jamie, cannabis is still prohibited by the federal government. Wouldn't smoking dope and working for the feds then, in your eyes, be a problem?
Yeah, but he's not working for the feds. He's got contracts with them. It's a different thing. He's not an employee of the government, so it doesn't really work that way. I mean, if we want to talk about this in a serious way, which is kind of hard to do because I really don't think it's a serious matter at all, and I really don't think that anybody thinks that it is. But when you mentioned his security clearance earlier, he might get a verbal slap on the wrist, but I don't think there's anything actionable at all about what he did, and I don't think anything will really come of it. I mean, if he's funding programs to help the government or to further their what they're doing, nothing's going to change because of it. This is just social fodder is all that is.
I think the real detriment could be as if his board of directors, whether it's on SpaceX or Tesla or whomever, all of a sudden ousts him as CEO. That's where it gets a little eerie.
Sure, yeah, and there are things in our world nowadays where you could probably do something coloring outside the lines to suffer that kind of consequence. If you make the wrong racial slur or something along those lines, or I don't know. But for taking a hit off of a joint on Joe Rogan's show, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm the odd man out here, but I just don't see that it's going to have any problem. I don't think it's going to cause a problem. I really don't. In the long run, it'll just go away.
So, in other words, what you're saying is he'll probably get that stern talking to.
Oh, I think someone may mention to him, man, you should have thought that one through a little better. That kind of a thing. I mean, I don't think the guy is the kind of person that answers to anyone ultimately. I think he would walk away from whatever he needed to walk away from to be his own person. He seems very eccentric. That's what I get from him. He's a strange dude, strange cat. I like it. I dig it. I like the whole thing. Whatever he is, it's pretty cool. But I don't think he's going to give a crap about, what someone suggests he should or shouldn't do. He just doesn't strike me as that kind of a person.
Well, by some of the reactions in the media, the American public is kind of like, who cares? Who cares? Because most Americans have already tried pot, and, many use it regularly. So they're like,
right.
Who really cares? Why should this affect what he does with his stocks falling with Tesla and, everything like that? Do you think the public is more forgiving than the government in this situation?
Yeah, and that's the irony is that, when it comes to a lot of these institutions that we have in the world, government, et cetera, a lot of times they're slow to catch up with what real life is like. What life is like, academia, any institution, whether it be the military or government or academia or anything, they have the straight and narrow and the rigid and yada, 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 which I guess is good. It shows you where the lines are. But most people in life color outside the lines. Even those people, they won't, you're not supposed to talk about it. It's like Lemmy from Motorhead used to say, everybody likes to smoke the Marlboro in the driveway on Sundays when they work on their car, but they're not supposed to be seen to be smoking the Marlboros in the driveway when they're working on their car. And it's just the way people are. Nobody really cares if Elon Musk took a hit off pot. Some people are probably thinking, cool, he's not, he's not uptight, But if you're going along that institutional mindset, maybe somebody might nudge him and suggest that he shouldn't do that sort of thing. But ultimately, he just, like I said earlier, he doesn't strike me as somebody that's going to really care,
No, I don't think he cares.
I don't think he cares.
But, I mean, he does have a couple of babies that he is nursing that he still needs support of.
You think he needs support?
Well, not personally.
Or is he supporting them?
I would say that the biggest issue with this is when you get that deep into finances, I mean, you may be the creator, you may be the face of what it is, but you're maybe only controlling 20-30% of that, and there's 70% of a board that could oust you. Sure.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, in the business context, and I get it. Like I say, I don't know, man. I just don't see how any of this is really an issue. And I'm not even I don't even partake with weed, man. I never have, but I just think it's silly that anybody would even flinch, you know.
Well, according to Uncle Dale,
you know,
here,
in the right.
According to Uncle Dale here in the chat room, all right, I'm going to read a few of his phrases here. He says, people with secret clearance are prohibited from using pot. A close friend of mine lost his clearance for that. SpaceX and Tesla are government contractors. Musk needs that clearance. I do not know. Then he says he didn't know how it started, but wow, that's why the stock dropped. Musk is the chief engineer of SpaceX. It will change if he can no longer be involved in SpaceX development activities because of this video. The regulations apply to government contractors also, which SpaceX is.
Yeah, well, I don't know. If it does apply to contractors as well, and I'm not sure that it does, but if it did, you know, like I said, I'm sure he'll get I'm sure he'll get that nudge. Bottom line, Dave, I don't think you're going to be reading in the papers next week that Elon Musk no longer has a contract with the government. I highly doubt you're going to be reading that at any point in the future.
No, I agree with you on that. I think once you get into the big boys club.
Yeah.
Okay. It reminds me of the book or Animal Farm, where, you know, everybody's equal, but some are more equal than others. And I think that's the point that we're talking about here. And Elon Musk is in that category. And I really don't see, you know, I think somebody will come up to him and say, buddy, what are you doing? You know, you can't be doing that. You know, one of those sarcastic slap on the hands. But I don't see it being a verbal bashing, or that they're going to, you know, all of a sudden remove him from his companies or anything like that, because he is the brains behind the operation. He is the guy who is coming up with all these funky ideas and saying, screw it, we're going to throw billions at it and we're going to do it.
Right.
He takes chances. And for, you know, sometimes he wins, sometimes he doesn't. And you know, getting back to the old Animal Farm there, he's at that elite echelon where people aren't going to give a care. Publicly, they may, you know, slap him on the wrist, much like Mark Zuckerberg got in front of the Senate hearings. But I mean, nothing changed.
Like you say, it's all about the big boys club. Yeah, nothing's going to come of this. You know, it's something for the little people to sit around the water cooler and chat about, but ultimately, it's not even an issue, you know. If they got to put on a little face for it and say, well, you know, it was suggested to Mr. Musk that he doesn't do such things, blah, 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 blah. It's not the way things work in the real world, man. Nothing's going to happen to this dude.
Well, I mean
it shouldn't.
I mean, there'll probably be some sort of minor press release or a suspension for 30 days while there was no planned SpaceX launches anyways. You know what I'm saying? That's probably
I don't even think that, dude.
You never know.
I don't think that. I don't know. If I was doing business at that level, if I was government or not, I wouldn't want to insult somebody like that I'm doing business with. You know what I mean? I think it's petty to even think that it would affect anything, to be honest with you. I mean, come on, man. Everybody smokes weed now. I mean, I don't, but everybody else does.
Yeah. It's an accepted type of tobacco.
It's a thing now, right?
It's a thing.
I mean, it's pretty much, it's a thing.
No, I fully agree with you. We only got about 2 minutes left before we have to get to the news here. And,
all right.
Man, this has been a quick show, man. Quick show.
I'll tell you what.
What's happening with the Rebel Planet? Let us know.
Well, the Rebel Planet is in some later stages of development right now, looking for some good advertisers at the moment, shopping for advertisers. Talking to a few of them now, and if we close, we should be up probably by Christmas. So there was a conflict of interest between a couple that we wanted to bring on board, but I think we got it resolved. So if we can get them all hooked up, we should be up by Christmas.
Wonderful. That would be excellent. That would be excellent. You want to stick around for the news with us, or you got to get going?
I'll stick around. Let's do it.
All right. Let's get in the president of Team Stump here. Oh, by the way, there's one for you. Devil's Tower. Remember Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Devil's Tower? He was, what is he, making Devil's Tower out of his mashed potatoes or something?
Absolutely.
I remember that.
You think Devil's Tower is a tree stump, or do you think it's a lava formation? Come on, be quick on that one. Tree stump?
Lava formation.
Oh, you jerk. You jerk. It's a stump, man.
Is it?
No, but that's why we got Team Stump around here. Hold on, let's break. We're going to be right back with the encounter and Everett Themer.
This is the winter of our lives. We come to play the final scene. The curtains closing in the darkness. We expose what lies beneath.
It's that time of the night again where we bring you the encounter, where we talk about the weird, the strange, the WTF of the news of the night. The news is always changing, and that's why we have the encounter. All you got to do is go to spacedoutradio.com, click on the news section, takes you right there. We got great writers going at it, including Captain Shirk. Yes, Gail does a fantastic job on the writing there. Thank you. She's a big Rob Zombie fan. You know that, Ev. Big Rob Zombie
course.
fan. Yeah, that UFO song, Gail cannot get enough of that.
I can just imagine her headbanging to that with her horns up and just going crazy around her house.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But President Team Stump, Everett Themer, our news director here on Spaced Out Radio, Jamie Sexton, is sticking around with us to catch the news again.
Hey, Everett.
How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Jamie tends to think that Devil's Tower is a rock.
We need to educate him.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, I need to be educated. Edumacated.
Absolutely you do, man. Absolutely.
Everett and I exchange memes all week. It's good to meet in an official capacity.
Exactly. Exactly. You guys are just trouble. Just trouble. Team Stump, man. That's what Team Stump is all about. We had a couple of members of Team Stump going in the chat room right now, which is very, very nice. And I'm sure there's a plethora of listeners out there who are on Team Stump as well, which we greatly appreciate. Everett?
Team Stump is a fun team to be on.
It is. It is. All right, man. All right. Let's get to it, my friend. Let's get to it. Give us a rundown of the weird, the strange, the WTF in the news of the day, man.
Well, you know, this first story, I kind of have to give some credit to Bill Hauser for, because he turned me on to it. There's this Alberta couple, Greg and Jody Kutcher, and they had been experiencing some tragedies and troubles in their lives, and they were kind of searching for answers. So they booked an appointment with Carmel Joy Baird after watching her TV show, Mom's a Medium.
Right.
And they paid the $525 booking fee back in 2015. And since then, there has been just one series of cancellations after another. They still have not received their reading from this woman.
Oh,
and
no.
she's gone so far as to deny them a refund and say that this is sort of a divine sign that when the spirits aren't ready to talk or to speak to people, they will cause things that will require the appointment to be canceled. You know, and she went on to explain that these are draining readings and they take a toll on her physically and things like that. But she has on numerous occasions just canceled them on what she calls divine occurrences. But she still will not give these people a refund after 3 years. And in fact, Go ahead.
So she spent the money and can't afford to pay them back. That's what it comes down to.
You know, it's tough to say, because you would think if you're getting $525 for a reading, and one of the things that she has said is that she is not denying them their reading, but instead she has to do them in the order that she receives them. So if she's booked 3 years in advance, she certainly can't be hurting for money.
No, I understand that. And, but 3 years is a little ridiculous. Like, what is she doing?
It is.
Like, one reading a day? I mean, at $525 a day, I mean, that's more than a lot of people who put in an 8-hour shift.
Yeah. And, like I said, the latest appointment was booked for today or yesterday, depending on where you are, the 21st. And after the family had made arrangements for babysitters and to take off work and to travel, she at the last minute canceled the appointment again. Still not offering a refund after 3 years of trying to, 3 years of these people trying to get their appointment with her. She has, however...
I'll give them a reading.
She has, however...
I see you going broke.
Well, she has... She won't give them a refund, but she has offered to try and attempt to sell their appointment to another client.
Oh, come on. Come on. Are they going to be taking this lady to court because she's obviously scamming them?
Well, the family obviously wants to pursue some form of legal action.
As they should.
They should. But the police up there are not investigating this because they look at it as a civil matter, not a criminal matter. And while this is, on the face of it, it's fraud. But as of yet, she has not technically denied them their appointment. She has never come out and said, "Oh, I'm not doing that." So she hasn't denied it from them. She just keeps putting it off or pushing it down the road. And also, this is an intangible service. So it's hard to, it would be hard to prove fraud even if she gave them a reading.
Well, I understand that, but why pay up front? I can understand a deposit, okay? On a $500 bill, I can understand a $50 deposit. But to pay up front and make these people wait 3 years, I mean, that has scam artists written all over it. And this is another one of those situations, Everett, that makes the spiritual community look horrendous. And there are some talented psychic mediums out there. There are people.
Many of them will do it for free or next to nothing.
Exactly. But I mean, $525. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to put out.
She has had complaints in the past. Some of them were resolved with refunds. Some of them were just, the people withdrew their complaint. But apparently in the last couple of weeks, about another 9 or 10 people have come out to file complaints against her. And in fact, it's called Service Canada, I believe. They are encouraging people to come out and file complaints against her if they've experienced something like this. Even if no actions can be taken, they are encouraging people just so that there's a record of it.
Yeah, the Better Business Bureau up here does that as well.
But I just can't imagine first paying over $500 for a reading and then to have it pushed off. We're not talking about 1 or 2 delays of a week or two here. This has been going on since June of 2015.
Well, I understand that. But, sometimes when people are not in the know, they act out of desperation. So obviously the grieving has made them desperate. And for some reason, they saw this lady on TV and they thought, well, she must be a good one if they have her on television. Let's book an appointment with her. It's probably how it went down.
it probably is exactly how it went down.
Right.
And that's a case where, you would like to think, and they admit they liked her approach and what they saw of her on TV. But you would like to think that somebody in that position, essentially acting as a face or figurehead for an entire industry in some ways, would be a bit more upstanding or a bit more ethical.
You would think. Madam Cleo wasn't.
That's Miss Cleo to you.
Or Miss Cleo, whatever it is.
But, I'm surprised that there aren't more legitimate psychics standing behind this family or coming out in support of this family. Doing the little bit of research that I had time to do, it doesn't seem as though there's anybody in the industry that's really standing up for them against this woman. And I don't know if that's because she has that TV persona and a little bit of fame, but it just seems like somebody should come out in the industry in defense of these people.
Well, you're absolutely right. And, there are a lot of good psychic mediums out there. And unfortunately, when you're uneducated, this is how people who are coming into this field because they've had a weird experience or they're grieving, this is how people get taken advantage of. Remember, we had that story on The Encounter about a year ago now where a lady in Mount Vernon, Washington, bilked a lady for $50,000.
Yes.
And that's a low number comparatively to how some people have been bilked by these fake psychics.
I think it takes a special kind of low to do something like this. I mean, it's different if you're kind of, and I shouldn't say it's different, but it's, I guess, a slightly different scenario if you're accepting a few dollars and telling people maybe what they want to hear or what you think they want to hear by doing a cold read versus something like this where you're taking a large amount of money, you're causing this family even more hardship and distress. You're kind of dangling hope and answers out in front of them while never offering any after getting their money.
I would agree. Let's move on to the next one, my friend.
Victoria Cuthroys was an Australian tourist who went to Thailand to explore and have a little bit of a vacation. And while she was there, she went to one of those spas where you put your feet in the pool and the fish eat the dead skin off of your toes and feet, and it's supposed to be rejuvenating and that kind of thing.
Right.
Well, after she returned to Australia, she got sick and had a fever and just wasn't feeling all that well. A year later, after being home a year, doctors determined that she had Schwalmanella, which is an infection that eats away at the bone and is only found in Thailand.
Oh, no.
So, yes, this pool that she had dipped her feet into at the spa, she says it looked clean. It looked like the spa was doing everything right, and it was hygienic and all of that. And she thought she was having a wonderful fish eat my toes experience. Totally. And it was infected. It was infected with this bacteria and caused her to lose all of her toes.
Oh, no. That's terrible.
Wow. It's another example of how some of those homeopathic things that not only can they be non-useful, they can also be dangerous if not done completely right.
You do have to wonder, I mean, with these trends that come up, like the fish eating the dead skin off your feet, I would never do that. Number one, that kind of grosses me out. I mean, I like
a little bit.
I mean, I'll admit it. I'm man enough to admit it. I like a good pedicure every now and again. I do. It's relaxing. Yeah. But I mean, I don't think I would fall for some of these, these strange types of procedures that seem to be happening in homeopathy. Jamie, you look like a guy who would. You'd do that.
I mean, I'm not a homeophobe or anything, but I wouldn't let those fish eat my corns either. I'll handle that myself. I mean, that's just strange. Put your feet in the water and let the fish eat your dead skin off. First of all, why are you walking around with dead skin on your feet anyway? That just seems bizarre. But yeah, I don't think I would go for it, Dave. I'm with you.
No.
I guess I'm the one dissenter here then, because I guess if I were in Thailand, wherever I am, I like to fit in and try some of the local customs.
Carpe diem.
I guess if I was there, as long as somebody didn't stick a piranha in there or something because they didn't like me or thought I was a cheap tipper or something, I might try it. Oh, after reading this, let me rephrase that. Yesterday, I might have tried it. Today, not so much.
Is there any way that she can file a lawsuit, or because it's in a different country and a lot of those types of places are fly-by-night and different laws? I don't know. I've never been to Thailand. I heard it's beautiful. I heard that the people are pretty fantastic there. But is there any way that she could file a lawsuit for the amputations?
I imagine there would be, but I would think that, what she could get in return, because I don't know in Thailand if places are, especially places like that, are required to have some form of liability insurance. So she could go to all the effort of first hiring an attorney in Australia and then retaining one in Thailand and going through all the time and expense only to find out that this place has no assets or no money to even pay her, and simply end up with just another legal bill.
Not to mention you have no toes.
Gives a new meaning to Team Stump. Thank you, Ad Gnome, for that.
That's terrible.
It is terrible. It is
and
terrible.
Hilarious.
I don't mean to laugh, but that was funny.
We offend everybody equally.
Yeah. Jeff on Twitter put somebody with a belt sander sanding the dead skin off his feet. That is grotesque. That is just grotesque.
Poor fish.
How did the fish survive?
That's what I want.
What did they eat before people started sticking their feet in these pools to let them feed off of them?
I don't know. Mr. Skeptic on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
Holy fruit.
One night in Bangkok makes your toes fall off. I could feel some fishies swimming up to me.
They eat Fritos.
This is why we praise Mr. Skeptic on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio here. Oh my goodness. Oh my god. Oh, this is terrible. Off the rails. It's so terrible. It is so, I feel for the lady. I really do.
Got no toes, man. That's terrible.
Next story.
She's stumped. Oh, she probably won't be working at this place, but there's a Queensland-based cleaning company called Bear All Cleaning Services that will provide you with nude housekeepers to clean your house.
Right?
She'll be going barefoot.
And of course, there is a city council person who is totally against this and says that it is not the image that Queensland wants to be portrayed as. Now, this cleaning company, they have about 150 employees, and these employees can make some pretty good money. Some of them make up to $75,000 a year cleaning people's houses naked. Now, they claim that this is a look, don't touch service, and it's cleaning only. There's nothing illegal or nefarious about it, but this local council finds it disgraceful and are looking for ways to have it shut down.
Whatever happened to the rules of what I do in my house is my business?
You're living in the 20th century?
Well, I realize that, but I mean, this is where and we only got a couple of minutes here, guys, before we got to go to the thought of the day here. But this is where this I'm offended crowd has to lighten up. Have a drink. Relax on the couch. Try wearing a pair of sweatpants again.
And, this isn't really anything all that new. I mean, I kind of remember in the 80s there were several topless cleaning services. And I believe here in the U.S. they were franchised and at least semi-national, as well as being semi-nude, that were, providing these services to willing clients or people that wanted to have somebody half naked clean their house. So it's not like an entirely new concept.
Not at all.
Well, I understand that, and it's not prostitution. Why should we be ashamed of the human body? I mean, I look in the mirror, I don't like what I see, but I'm not ashamed.
Well, they do have 55 male house cleaners. If you're looking for a career change, you just have to fly literally.
No, but that brings up that brings up a good point, though. Men and women are purchasing this service because they enjoy it.
Exactly, and it's in the privacy of their own home.
Are they going to ban adult magazines? Hustler, Playboy, Penthouse, Playgirl? Are they going to ban those? Are they going to ban people from, downloading adult films because they may enjoy that type of entertainment?
Oh, they're going to have to ban the internet then.
The worst part about it is she'll gain traction. This politician will gain traction on this from the I'm offended crowd.
She may.
There's nothing wrong with what they are doing. Nothing wrong.
No, if you want to hire somebody to clean your house naked, at least this way, it's a professional service where it's at the very least registered, and I would expect that they are expected to, the employees are expected to live to some certain standards, whereas
Absolutely.
I'm sure if you wanted it bad enough, you could find somebody somewhere that you would be able to pay to clean your house naked, and with that, you don't know what you're getting.
A friend of mine who I used to work with at the radio station, her and her best friend started this company in Vancouver where they would send girls in lingerie to poker parties.
I've seen that before.
All right. And I don't know if it ever got topless or not, but my friend ended up quitting the radio station, and she actually won awards for being one of the best new businesses in Vancouver.
I think I went to that place.
Right?
That's impressive that a business like that would get recognized in a manner like that.
Yeah, well, but there's a difference between perversion and prostitution and showing off your body. Strip clubs. People go to strip clubs all the time. Right? If that's the type of entertainment that people enjoy, who cares? It's in their house. They're allowed. I don't tell you what you should do in my house.
Well, you could tell me what to do in your house.
No, but I mean, I'm sorry. I don't tell you what to do in your house. Don't tell me what I can do in mine. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's offensive that somebody next door might be having fun that I'm not.
That is very true, and that's a good time to go to the thought of the day, gentlemen. I know Retired Skeptic loves the clown song, same as Desert Clam on Twitter. Thought of the Day happens every day at this time, where we ask a question during the day on on Twitter and Facebook, and then we read your results because we love the audience participation around here. So today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. What do you think happened at the Sunspot Observatory? Well, you know my opinion on that. It's always aliens. I think we convinced Jamie it was aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Everett, aliens?
I'm not convinced it was aliens, but I'm not buying the child porn thing either.
Me either. Tim says China spying on White Sands and Holloman Air Force Base because they are in close proximity. Stephen, thought I read something about inappropriate stuff being looked on computers. Yeah, that is the official statement. Coral, the electronic geek in me says they were hacked. That's why the FBI got involved. What better way to enter the whole U.S. government's computer system? However, the science geek in me says they saw something like the Carrington sun flare incident in the making that may eventually hit the U.S. or another country, wiping out all power across the country for years. Or maybe they saw something else. Who knows? See? Aliens. Right there. Right there. Lisa says, I read an article a few days ago that the telescope was spying at a nearby military base. Could very well be. Fred, they had a very successful meth lab and the government caught wind of it and had to shut it down. I don't think that was one of them. Jade states, either a bomb scare or a bio-attack scare, hence the evacuation in other buildings close by. I don't think it was either one of those. I really don't. Dennis, mice. It's always them damn mice. That's funny. They'll nibble at your toes there. You know. Gary, no, they were making moonshine. Sylvia, we'll have to look this one up. Might want to. It's kind of interesting. Penman says, none of the excuses make much sense, really. The child porn excuse sounds like a cover story. Why would they shut the post office down? Maybe they had no mail. Aussie Rob, I would tell you, but I would then have to wipe your mind of what I said. And he posts a gif of Will Smith from, Men in Black hitting that little stick, where he puts his sunglasses on. Very good tone there.
I want one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little Richie G. Of course, he's on my side. Aliens. Bivster, I feel like proof of a dangerous confrontation with aliens is close at hand, trying to come out to the public or an outside source before they got caught. Bingo. It's all about the aliens, boys. All about the aliens. We got time for one more. Renee, I am unsure, as not much is being said, why they closed, but they are being pretty tight-lipped about it all. But yeah, why shut down and evacuate everything there over something that they are saying was a security issue? Something smells, that's for sure. And Kevin, scorpions. Lots of scorpions. I don't think it was scorpions. Everett, let everybody know where they can find the encounter.
They can find the encounter at spacedoutradio.com under the news tab, or they can find bits and pieces of it at facebook.com/SOR, the encounter online.
All right. Thank you, Jamie Sexton, for coming on in tonight as well for the Rebel Planet. We will talk to you on October 18th, the third Thursday of the month.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that. Don't forget, you can get your tickets for the first annual Caribou Paracon right now at questers.ca. That's questers.ca. Click on the fall conference. You got a week. I want to see you up here for the first annual Caribou Paracon presented by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. Tomorrow night on the show, speaking of Paracons, I'm going to be playing a network replay. I am on my way to Washington State for the Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington on Saturday. I'll be speaking around 6 p.m., closing it out. I would love it if all of you could attend down there. Go check it out. Show tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Yes, all the chat rooms will be open. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Big thank you to everyone, wherever you are listening, in your cars, at work, wherever you may be. Big thank you to everybody chatting away on Rev Radio, Spreaker, Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Skeptic, you outdid yourself tonight. And the SOR Space Travelers Club on Facebook. Thanks for sharing the show, telling your friends about us, because together, my friends, we own the night. I will talk to you on Monday. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a good one, everyone. Good night.